So, why should you play DD? So, we're going to refer to it as DD for the rest of the video, but you could also refer to this deck as DDD, I suppose, but whatever. So, your end board, first off, will usually end on at least, or at the very minimum, Triple D Wave High King Caesar, and you also end on Triple D Divisor King Deus Machinax. So, with Wave High King Caesar, you'll have this lovely effect. When a spell trap card or monster effect is activated that includes an effect that special summons a monster, you can detach one material from this card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. If you've noticed, that has no hard once per turn or chain. There's not a single hard once per turn on this card. Even for the, you can add one Dark Contract card from your deck to your hand whenever this card is sent from the field to the graveyard. And Deus Machinex's form of interruption is this. Once per chain, when a monster card your opponent controls activates its effect, you can either quick effect, detach to, or destroy a Dark Contract you control. And since it attaches, you get another material on this card every time it activates its effect to detach. So this activates quite a few times every single time it's summoned, I guess. So it's a lot of interruption. And that's about what you got if you just end on the one card combo. You usually have like, I think it was like 4 triggers on Deus. It was like around 4 to 5 or something like that. Whatever. And then for recovery, you have great recovery with Oblivion King, Abyss, Ragnarok. You have Flame King, Genghis. You have High Flame King, Genghis, or we shall refer to them for the rest of this video as Small Genghis and Big Genghis. So you also have the recovery on, of course, Ragnarok, which you can play 2 of if you think he'll come up. If you kind of need the second one. Sometimes you get hit by like Duster, Raigeki, and it's hard to kind of recover after that in some cases, but whatever. Another example of the recovery is, for example, if you have this scaled, the effect for this is if you special summon a DD monster, except for during the damage step, you can target a DD monster in your graveyard, and effect here, and then anyway, special summon that monster. So basically a monster reborn in archetype, and this has a similar effect, and this as well. So Big Genghis and Small Genghis, similar effect. And so you can, for example, Burn the Floor effect, summon Small Genghis, Ragnarok summon Big Genghis, and then that will trigger the Small Genghis, and then Small Genghis will summon something, and that will trigger the, like, Big Genghis and whatnot, and then you just have your whole board pretty much rebuilt, or you just have a bunch of big bodies. Whatever the case, you've got a good thing going. And there's actually a 3-card line you can take that makes Baron as the 5th summon, so you won't be Nibiru'd, which is pretty cool. So we have, well, basically what you need for that combo is Swirl Slime, Griffin, and then any DD aside from Orthos. Like, you could have a second copy of Swirl Slime and that would work as well, for example. And yeah, this deck is pretty nice. So let's go a little further into it. You even have some other options you can run in the, well, different options to run in this deck. Like, if you're really crazy with it, you can run Dark Contract with the Witch, for example. Duo Dawn King Kali Yuga has uses as well. Pretty classy card, if I do say so. Well, yeah. And then there is also, for example, Gust High King Alexander, Super Doom King Bright Armageddon, and Super Doom King Dark Armageddon. They all have fairly interesting effects, so Dark Armageddon's effect is that DD Pendulum monsters cannot be destroyed by card effects. And then Doom King Bright has this lovely effect. Your opponent cannot target monsters you control with card effects. So that's not as strong as, like, an effect as, for example, Lost World, I suppose. But it is still fairly strong. DD being pretty self-contained is pretty great as well. All of the extra deck monsters you're bringing out pretty much are all DD cards, which is pretty swell. Yeah, it kind of sucks sometimes when you know, for example, you're playing Speedroid, and then are you bringing out Speedroid extra deck monsters? Well, most of the time, not really. You're more likely to be going into generics. Like, Crystal Wing is a generic, it's not really a Speedroid monster, right? So, for example, in, I guess, a zombie deck, you'd be bringing out Chaos Ruler, you'd be bringing out Baron de Flor, Chengying, whatever. Most of the time, you're just basically not really bringing out zombie extra deck monsters. Like, before we had Red Eye Zombie Dragonlord, what were we bringing out in terms of zombie extra deck monsters? Vampire Sucker? What a great endboard card. So, anyways, back on topic. You have a lot of different negates and interactions. Like, Flame High King Genghis also actually has this effect. Once per your turn, when a spell trap card or its effect is activated quick effect, you can negate the activation. So that effect's pretty swell. And then you have Curse King Siegfried effect to also, during either player's turn, which essentially means quick effect. You can target one face of spell trap card on the field. The target has its effects negated. So interestingly enough, if, like, since Dark Ruler No More is being played more right now, for example, you can actually grab, for example, Dark Contract with the Eternal Darkness. So this actually can be used to counteract Forbidden Droplet and Dark Ruler No More. So if your opponent activates Forbidden Droplet or Dark Ruler No More, you can activate this, and then that will allow you to actually chain Siegfried after the Dark Contract with the Eternal Darkness, targeting like Dark Ruler No More or Forbidden Droplet. And you also do have, interestingly enough, easy Zeus access. So if you can go into any DDD extra deck monster, or Gilgamesh without activating Gilgamesh's special summon effect, since this is optional and will lock you out of Zeus, I guess. You can go into any DD to Deus, and then after you attack, boom, Zeus. And you do have a small climb where you can go like Caesar, Tel, Deus, and then Zeus as well, which is interesting. I think the line that a lot of people liked to take was like to go Caesar effect, and then you can just crash with Caesar and you're perfectly fine, because an XYZ monster did do battle, and then you can summon back Caesar, go Tel, Deus, Zeus or whatever, and you also get to search a Dark Contract for like your next turn. So that's a pretty good line to take, and good for board breaking. But the line I like more is going, instead of running Zeus, I run Omega personally, so I can like utilize Gamma. Gamma helps me neutralize some hand traps, deal with Max C, whatever. Gamma helps out. So there's a lot of versatility and a lot of stuff that the archetype does by itself already. So for example, you actually have back row removal innately. Like, we have our copy of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga actually has this lovely effect: destroy all spells and traps on the field. I don't remember exactly what the card was called, but it's a banned card actually with this effect. It's some spell. It's called, like, what was it? Heavy Storm Duster or something? Yeah, I think that was the card. So, destroy all spell and traps on the field. Kelly Yuga has that effect. Kelly Yuga also has this lovely effect, where after Kelly Yuga is XYZ summoned for the rest of this turn, other cards and their effects cannot be activated on the field, and other card effects on the field are negated. This actually allows you to out a bunch of different things, just kind of random, but it does. Like, just for example, though, we'll go into a weird one. So, Scareclaw Tryheart has this effect. Must be link summoned all face-up. Monsters on the field are changed to defense position, unaffected by the activated effects of defense position monsters. Once per turn, if this card is in the extra monster zone, you can target one level 3 Scareclaw monster in your graveyard, special summon it, and if you do, add one Scareclaw monster from your deck to your hand. So this is not actually affected by activated effects, but this is actually not even an activated effect on Kali Yuga. So you actually can out Scareclaw Tryheart by summoning Kali Yuga. Because this is just directly on its XYZ summon. So it's pretty much on summon. So the only way to stop this effect is like a Solemn Judgment or something like that. Because you can't actually negate this effect with, like, for example, a Lost Wind or like Imperm. Not really doable. Or if you activate Droplet from hand, you would just simply have your Droplet negated. And that's how that would work. Pretty crazy. We also do have like a Scythe at home, you know, with our Dark Contract with the patent license, which is interesting. And this is also kind of like an extra deck block as well. Not exactly, but your opponent cannot tribute monsters for a tribute summon, or use them as materials for a fusion synchro or XYZ summon. So that's kind of like a floodgatey card a bit, but for the most part, you have a lot of different types of interactions with your deck. Like, for example, Headhunt. I guess this is kind of like a quick effect Snatch Steal. It's also a monster negate, which is pretty cool, pretty interesting. So you also have, in terms of back row removal, we have Orthros. Orthros can just, you pop like a DD or Dark Contract card, and also you can, well, yeah, you pop a back row, any back row, which is pretty neat, I guess. Don't really have another word for this, but yeah. Orthros effect. If you have two Orthros, actually, I guess, you could pop two back row. And the cost isn't a big deal here because you can actually use the cost as part of your combo. Or it's pretty easily paid. Like, you can just destroy your Dark Contract with the gate and trade it for your opponent's, like, I don't know, skill drain or whatever. Completely fine to do so. Being soft once per turn is interesting. But since it can't target itself, I don't think you can, with two copies like this, go through three. Because, I guess you could use, like, 7 Thomas's effect to pop itself then, and then add it back, if that were part of the effect, but, like, I'm getting a little sidetracked here. Your Dark Contract cards are also, like, somewhat combo pieces, and they're also able to be used for follow-up, basically, because they are continuous spells. If I activate Dark Contract with the gate on my first turn, for example, and then my opponent, like, negates it, or they live to see turn 3, whatever, right? Well, I guess you normally would live to see turn 3. But, anyways, if my contract is still on the field on turn 3, it's just another search, again. Or, like, with Dark Contract with the Swamp King, I can just fusion summon another monster using my Dark Contract with the Swamp King. So that's some pretty high value. And there are a lot of interesting interactions. For example, like, a lot of your extra deck monsters actually say DD. DD monster, this, 2 level 10 feed monsters, or just like a DDD monster, whatever, right? So, an interaction to get rid of, like, your opponent's monsters on your field to stop them from clogging you and such. You can actually, after, like, Headhunt, assuming you took, like, a main deck monster, for example, you can then use like Divine Zero King Rage's effect to tribute one other monster, and then apply the effect of like your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in the spell and trap zones. Your opponent can activate card or effects in their hand or graveyard. You can just activate one of those. Or you could even normal summon on top of it because you still have that contract with the gate. You could like, you know, like gate search. Well, I mean, if you were playing 2 copies of Ragnarok, you could use Ragnarok and just normal summon over whatever. Speaking of which, like with the Orthros pop, for example, you'll pretty much always have a pop because you'll have scales. So let's say you have this scale and this scale, then you can just summon back, for example, Griffin from your extra deck because that's how Pen works, and then you'll just pop the Griffin, and then it'll be on your extra deck face up again, and then you can just Griffin again, and you kind of just have like Orthros effect every time it's your turn, I guess, which is pretty awesome. And yeah, you have 2 1-card combos. You have 7 Kepler, and you have Dark Contract with the Gate as well. So you're doing pretty solid in that regard as well. And a lot of the lines have different variations and nuances to them, and I guess depending on situation, you're better off making certain boards over certain other boards as well. But overall, DD is fairly strong. You can play going first or second fairly easily. Since you have 1-card combos, you can fit in a lot of generics. Since Kepler and their contract with the Gate are both 1-card combos. They are true 1-card combos as well. Not like, for example, the Punk cards. Or like the Punk tele combo, you actually need to do discards. There is no discard required if you start off with the 1-card combo of 7 Kepler Dark Contract with the Gate. You still end on 1 copy of Wave Hiking Caesar and Deus Machinax. For 2 cards, you typically end on something like, I don't know, in terms of negates, it's like Siegfried Deus with like Wave Hiking Caesar, or it's like Wave Hiking Caesar, Deus, and Headhunt, which is pretty neat. Speaking of semi-neat interactions, I don't think I mentioned this yet, but if you have Dark Contract with the Eternal Darkness, if your opponent activates Dark Ruler No More or Forbidden Droplet, you enchain this, and then you enchain Siegfried to negate Dark Ruler No More or Forbidden Droplet. If I already mentioned that, it was just so cool, I had to mention it twice. But yeah, there are a lot of actually DD cards that you can utilize. This build doesn't utilize all of them because you simply don't have the space, of course. For like the no target from Right Armageddon, and then the destruction protection from Doom King Dark Armageddon's pretty cool. And then there's like Oblivion King Caesar Ragnarok's effect to attach it. Well, not attach, it's equip a face-up monster your opponent controls to this card. That effect's pretty interesting. You have a lot of different types of effects, and that means you have ways to out certain things. Unironically, the hardest thing for you to deal with, I think, just randomly, is just not being able to target your opponent's monster is pretty rough, actually. Because in this list, everything targets. This targets. This targets. Even this targets. Yeah. But Oblivion King Abyss Ragnarok has this lovely effect to banish a monster as well. So you have a lot of different types of removals in archetype already. And you can just, if you really need it, you can flex in some different types of removal and stuff. Like, evenly matched. Raigeki. Whatever. You have access to it, and you can just fit it in. And it's perfectly fine. And yeah. A lot of these cards just go pretty hard on their own. Like, even DS, or not DS, even Gilgamesh has quite a few effects. So, a lot of versatility and ways to use these cards as well. And it's a lot of fun to learn, in my opinion. Well, speaking of learning, though, there are 3 primary combos that I think you should learn. So it's just the 1 card with Kepler, and then the 1 card with Dark Contract with the Gate, and then the 3 card of Griffin, Swirl Slime, and then any other DD aside from Orthros allows you to go into Baron 5th Summon, allowing you to play around Nibiru. So those are the main 3 lines you can learn, I guess. And endboard wise, you have some options, right? So you can go pretty wild with it. And there's also the fact that DD is also pretty budget friendly. If you disregard all the staples I have, and I am including Baron and Zeus as staples, then let's count the amount of UR cards we have that we need to build this deck with. 1, 2, 3, 4. That's it. 4 URs. That's literally all you need to make DD. And then the rest are SR or below, and Griffin being one of the cards you might have to craft, but all of the, like, the majority of the cards are actually in the same pack, so you can just grab all of them. I think the ones you need to craft are this one, this one. Well, so basically, Dias, Tell, and then, like, Griffin. Everything else you can pull for pretty easily. They're not super high rarity. Or they're low rarity enough that crafting them shouldn't matter too much. As you can see, I'm running a little low on my normal and rare card points, my CP, whatever. Running fairly low, as you can see. So, not only is it kind of fairly budget friendly, it's also pretty strong, going both first and second without too much of an issue. If you were worried about, I don't know, Sprite, I guess you would change your deck to accommodate for it more. Maybe run... I guess... we can keep Droplet, I guess. Or we can change it out for Dark Ruler no more. But this lineup itself is pretty good. Overall, I guess triple tax wouldn't necessarily be required, but triple tax pretty good, I guess. But yeah, I would highly recommend you play DD. But I guess if I kind of racked my brain around a bit for this, trying to find a con about playing DD. I couldn't really find one, I guess. I mean, some people really don't like playing Penned, I guess. But I wouldn't really call playing Penned being a downside. It's just a game mechanic. It's been around for so many years. Just learn the mechanic already, guys. But aside from that, there is the fact that your cards don't have extra deck animations. But I mean, you can actually spin that to being a positive. You see, because your combo is so long and you summon Gilgamesh multiple times a turn, not having Gilgamesh have an animation actually saves you time in the long run. Is what I tell myself to cope with the fact that we still don't have animations. But yeah, I'll end the video here, and I'll see you guys next time, or next video, I guess. Bye.